Mainly there are two actors in the web service, SOAP-based web service. The two actors are nothing but one is a web service consumer and second thing is a web service provider. These are the two actors in the web service. One is what? Web service. One is a web service consumer. One is a web service consumer. And second thing is nothing but web service provider. Web service consumer and web service provider. Mainly these two are the actors in web services. Web service consumer and web service provider. Now Android is what? Android is a consumer side technology or the provider side technology? Android is what? It's a consumer side. It's not a provider. It's a consumer. Android is what? Android is a consumer side technology. Provider side it may be a Java, .NET, or PHP, some other technologies. So mainly these two are the actors in the web service communication. But if you see here, let's take my requirement is I want to display weather information I want to display in my application. I want to display what? Weather information I want to display in my application. See, if you want to display weather information, you cannot send your own satellite to get the weather information. Practically, it's not work out also. We are not having that much capabilities to send a satellite just to get the weather information. Already someone is sent a satellite to get the weather information. Already they are getting the data they are getting. So those people, if you make a request to those people, they'll give the data to you. Maybe it may be a paid service or it may be a free service and all. But the problem is nothing but here. Okay, my requirement is I want to get the weather information I want to get in my application. I want to get the weather information I want to get in my application. So if you want to get the weather information, if you want to get the weather information, if you want to get in your application, okay, what is the input we had to pass? We had to pass a country name and the city name, or we had to pass a zip code we had to pass, or what is the information I had to pass to get the weather information? We don't know, right? We don't know what is the input we had to give together to get the weather information. Whether we had to pass a zip code we had to pass to get the weather information, or we had to pass the city name along with the country name. Okay. So basically we don't know any information about that. What is the input parameters we have to pass and what is the response we'll get and all. We don't know anything about that. So if you want to get that information, or if you want to communicate provider, if you want to communicate, the first thing is nothing but after creating the web service, the web service provider has to write a file called WSDL. If you want to communicate with the provider, if you want to communicate with the provider, if you want to communicate, the first thing after creating the web service provider has to create a file called what? WSDL. So, or we call as WSDL. WSDL is termed as Web Service Definition Language or Web Service Description Language. WSDL is termed as what? Web Service Definition Language or Web Service Description Language. Web Service Definition Language or Web Service Description Language. You can use either Web Service Definition Language or you can use either Description Language. So what is the purpose of this one? Purpose of this one is nothing but after creating the web service provider has to give the description about his web service. What are the inputs user has to pass and what is the output format we are going to give. Like each and everything about the web services, he has to create a document he has to create. Okay, if he creates a document, then only the consumer is going to get the WSDL file first, because the complete information is available in the WSDL file. Okay, just remember here, after creating the web service provider has to create what? A WSDL file. Okay, if WSDL file is available, then only we can communicate with SOAP based web service. We can communicate. If the developer is not given, I mean the provider is not given the web service WSDL file, then we cannot communicate with this provider. We cannot communicate. Okay, we cannot communicate with the web service. If you want to see the sample WSDL file, just I'll show you. Like for example, I want to get the weather information I want to get. Just type weather wisdom. In your application, you have a requirement of displaying some weather information. Just go and type this weather wisdom. See here. Here you can find a web service. This is a wisdom file. This is the wisdom file. It's a XML file basically. Wisdom is also nothing but an XML file. Okay. So this is a wisdom file. So by using this wisdom, you have to understand this wisdom, what is the inputs you have to pass and what is the output we'll get and all. So always wisdom is going to terminate with at question mark wisdom. If you see here, always the wisdom is going to terminate with what? At question mark wisdom, and it's a .NET web service. It's a .NET web service. So now if you remove this at question mark wisdom, if you remove this at question mark wisdom, now you can see here what are the list of services it is providing. Now you can see here the list of services what it is providing. Here you can see here this web service. Our requirement is we want to display weather information we want to display in our application. We found the web service we found, and see here this web service is providing two services. Get cities by country is one service. You can get the list of cities you can get by passing a country name is one service. Second thing is nothing but get weather. Okay, if you want to get the weather information, if you want to get, so you have to pass the city name, you have to pass here is a country name. Invoke. Maybe this service is not working, I guess. Let's try another service. This is another service. Get cities by country is another service. So if you pass a country name, if you pass as an input, we'll get the list of cities we'll get. For example, I want to get the India cities I want to get. So once if you select the invoke button, so we got the XML file we got. We got the XML file we got from the server, the list of cities in the India. We got the response we got from the server in a XML file we got from the server. Okay, this is one service. Even for weather information also, we got the wisdom file we got, meaning someone is providing a web service and he is giving the description in a wisdom file. And this is another wisdom file, but it's only for which is updated hourly in US. Only for this web service is only for US. And this is another web service. Like you can find a lot of web services. You can find so based wisdom files you can find in the. Okay, this is get weather by zip code and get weather by place name. Okay, I'm taking place name. I'm taking for example. Tell me any city name US. Atlanta. Is it correct? Yeah. I'll take this one only because the service will work definitely. Tell me any zip code in US. US zip code. Any city zip code. Get city forecast by zip. Okay. 422 44240. Okay. So we got the information we got. See here. City font, city Kent. Okay. So weather ID partially cloudy description. Okay. And thunderstorm. So date we got. Date wise information we got. This is 2014. So device information we got. This is one thing. This is second date. And otherwise get city weather by zip. So Kent is a city. Okay, so we got light rain, temperature is 58, so relative humidity is 97. So we got the weather information we got here. Okay, so like this you can find a number of services you can find. It's not only for weather, you can find a number of services like currency converter, a lot of whatever the information you want, just go and search for that particular service is available or not. Okay, okay. So first, after creating the web service provider has to write a file called what? WSDL file he has to create. So if provider is created a WSDL file, then only we can communicate with web service. Otherwise, you cannot communicate with service. You cannot communicate because he only knows the information. Ultimately, what is the inputs he is taking, what is the output he is giving. Okay, where the service is located, and everything about about his service. Okay, so now we found a WSDL file. We found the provider is giving a WSDL file as far as to us communicate. Okay, the main problem is what? Okay, we are developing an Android application. We are developing, meaning the data is available. Meaning we are developing an Android application by using which programming language? By using Java programming language, we are developing an application. Okay, but at the server side, if you see all these web services, whatever we found here, all are the .NET services here. If you see .asmx, 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 all these are what? It's a .NET server, it's a PHP server. If you see here, it's a PHP server. It's a PHP server. Okay, so we are using at the Android side, we are using Java technology. We are using for developing the application. At provider side, it may be a .NET, it may be a PHP, or it may be maybe some other technologies, Java, .NET. So for example, imagine we are developing a Android application by using Java programming language. You have a requirement of communicating with a .NET. You have a requirement of communicating with what? A .NET technology. But if you send this Java code, a .NET system cannot understand the Java code. If you get the .NET response, a Java system cannot understand the .NET response. So yesterday we discussed, right? Don't communicate either in Java or .NET. Use a common language like XML. So first, what we had to do is, if you want to send some data to your .NET system, first whatever the data is there in your object, first whatever the data is there in the object, first write the data into one XML file. Write the data in a XML file. Don't send this Java object directly. First, whatever the data is there, that data first convert into what? An XML file. Okay. So why we are converting this XML? Because SOAP service support only XML. SOAP supports what? Only XML. Whereas RESTful service support both XML and JSON. SOAP service only the data transferring in a XML file. RESTful web service will support both XML and JSON. Okay. Okay. So now the Java object is converted into an XML file. Basically, this process is called as serialization. This process is called as what? Serialization. Meaning, writing the object data into an output file, any file. Writing the object data into a file is called as serialization. So it's a core Java concept, basically serialization. Writing the object data into a file is called as what? It's a serialization. Serialization. Writing the object data into a file is called as what? Serialization. But if you send this XML data directly, if you send to the server, there are two problems are there. The two problems are nothing but, one is there may be a chance of naming conflicts. There may be a chance of what? Naming conflicts. Meaning, for example, you are sending this data, you are sending to the server. Imagine you are sending this data, you are sending to the server like employees is a main root tag. Employees by employees. And you create a tag called employees a tag. So sending the data to server. Okay. Employees is the main root tag. Then we create a tag called employee. Okay. So for example, we configure the ID. We configure close ID. So ID name, and for example, last one is also I'm specifying ID only. So we created this XML file. We created. We know what is the first ID and what is the third one. First one is the employee ID and third one is the department ID. But if you give this XML file, if you give this XML file to some other people, or if you send this XML file to server, which one is the employee ID and which one is the department ID? You created this XML because you know which one is the employee ID and which one is the department ID. But if you send this XML file to server, it cannot understand because it's a program, right? Program, they are going to read, they are going to write a program, read the data from the ID tag. But here there are two ID tags are there. There may be a chance of conflicts. This is the first one. This is what? The first problem. Second thing is nothing but this is the actual data. This is the actual data we are passing. But along with this data, I want to send some meta information. Like to enter into the provider will ask some credentials, login credentials. See, that's not the actual data. That's a meta information. One is I want to avoid the naming conflicts. That is the first requirement. Second thing is nothing but I want to send some metadata I want to send to the provider. Because of these two things, providing a metadata and to avoid the naming conflicts, basically the XML file is classified into two parts. Basically the XML file is classified into what? Two parts. That is nothing but one is the header part. One is what? The header part. Second thing is nothing but body part. So this actual data will be sent. This actual data will be sent in a body tag. This actual data will send in a body. But in the header, if you want to send some any meta information, if you want to send any meta information, if you want to send, then we'll send the data in a header tag. We'll send the data. This classification to avoid the naming conflicts and to give the meta information about that XML file, then to provide these two things, the XML file is classified into two parts. What are the two parts? One is the header section. Second thing is what? Body section. This classification is called as SOAP. This classification is called as what? SOAP. SOAP is termed as Simple Object Access Protocol. Just they given a name like that. Just they given the name like that. Simple Object Access Protocol, but it's a XML file only. Even the SOAP is also nothing but what? Even the SOAP is also nothing but an XML file only. Even the SOAP is also what? SOAP is also nothing but an XML file only. Okay, but it's not. It's a classified XML which contains two sections: header part and body part. This classification is called as what? SOAP. Okay, so SOAP is termed as what? SOAP is termed as Simple Object Access Protocol. Simple Object Access Protocol. Okay, so basically, what is the two problems? One is we cannot provide the metadata, we cannot provide, and there may be a chance of naming conflicts. So to avoid these two things, the XML file is classified into two parts, that is header part and border part, header part and body part. That classification is called as what? SOAP. If you want to see, just you can see here, just type here SOAP XML. Sample SOAP XML. You see here SOAP envelope. Okay, meaning the XML file is classified into two parts. One is the header part, SOAP header, and second thing is nothing but SOAP body. SOAP header and SOAP body. This classification is called as what? SOAP. This classification is basically the XML classification. XML classification is called as what? SOAP. The header part and body part, if you classify these two ways, it's called as what? SOAP. Okay. Next. See, even we cannot send this SOAP XML file directly also. And this process converting the XML file into SOAP XML, converting the XML file into SOAP XML file. This process is called as SOAP serialization. Okay, 1 second. So this process is called as what? SOAP serialization, meaning converting that XML file into SOAP XML. This process is called as SOAP serialization because it's most important in the interviews process. This process is called as what? SOAP serialization. And even directly we cannot send this SOAP XML file to the server. We cannot say like, boss, I'm sending an XML file, SOAP XML file, catch it. We cannot say like that, right? If you want to send some data over the internet, if you want to send the data over the internet, we are having some protocols like HTTP, SMTP, FTP. We are having some protocols. We'll send the data by using the protocols. We'll send the data, right? So meaning after converting this one into SOAP XML, even the SOAP is also nothing but it's a XML file only. SOAP XML. Now we cannot send this SOAP XML file to server. We had to put this SOAP XML file, we had to put into an HTTP request. We had to put this SOAP XML, we had to put into what? HTTP request we had to put. We had to put this SOAP XML, we had to put into an HTTP request we had to put. We had to put the SOAP XML file, we had to put into HTTP request we had to put. This HTTP request will transfer over the network. This HTTP request will transfer over the network. Okay. And at the server side, from here we are sending what? We are sending a SOAP XML file, we are sending in the HTTP protocol, right? At the server side, they will receive this SOAP XML file, they will receive at the server end. At the server end, they will receive what? The SOAP XML file they will receive. Meaning in the HTTP request, we are sending some data we are sending. It's not only an HTTP, maybe any protocol. Max we use what? HTTP protocol we use. At the server side, they will receive what? The SOAP XML they will receive. At server side, they will receive what? A SOAP XML file they will receive at the server end. At the server end, they will receive what? A SOAP XML file they will receive at the server end. Okay. At server end, they will receive what? A SOAP XML file they will receive. Okay. And this SOAP contains two tags. What are the two tags? One is the header tag. Second thing is what? Body tag. Meta information is available in the header tag. Actual data is available in the body tag. So what they will do is from SOAP XML, they will get the XML file they will get. From SOAP XML, they will get what? An XML file they will get. From SOAP XML, they will convert that SOAP XML into what? XML file. Okay. And next, this XML will be converted into what? This XML will be converted into an object format will convert. Next this XML will be converted into what? An object it will convert. The XML will be converted into what? An object format it will convert. Okay. Internally, this much process will happen for communicating with the server through SOAP-based web services. Okay. And even this process, converting the SOAP XML file into XML file, this process is called as SOAP deserialization. This is called as SOAP serialization. Converting the XML into SOAP XML is called as SOAP serialization. From SOAP XML to XML, this conversion is called as what? SOAP deserialization. Converting the getting the XML file from SOAP XML. This is called as what? SOAP deserialization. SOAP deserialization. Okay. Next, the last process here, from XML to object, file to object conversion. File to object conversion. This conversion is called as what? It's a deserialization. This conversion is called as what? It's a deserialization. This conversion is called as what? Deserialization. And even the response also will get in the same way from the server. From server, you want to get some response you want to get from the server. Even the response is also in the same way we'll get. So a .NET system wants to give a response to your Java system. So again, the same thing. Okay. First, we'll get the response. They'll write that response. They'll write an XML file. I think better. We'll copy this entire thing. We'll copy. The response also we'll get from the server. In the same way, we'll get the response we'll get from the server. Okay. In a same way, we'll get the response we'll get from the server. First, they will write the data in XML file. They will write the data. Next, get the SOAP XML from the XML file. So internally, this much process will happen in SOAP service for communicating with the server. First, convert your XML data into SOAP XML to HTTP. Okay. So in this way, it will communicate with the provider. It will communicate. The response will get in this format. Okay, but the problem is, okay, here in this entire architecture, this is basically this is a SOAP service architecture. This is what the SOAP web service architecture. This is what the SOAP web service architecture. So in this architecture, if you see here, in this architecture, this is a SOAP service architecture. In this SOAP architecture, the Android side responsibility is nothing but this is the Android side responsibility. I'm marking in a green color. So our responsibilities, Android side responsibilities up to this one. Meaning putting the data into HTTP request, receiving the HTTP request, this is the Android side responsibility, right? We are the consumer part. Android. And this is what? It's a server side responsibility. Meaning receiving the HTTP request, okay, from HTTP to SOAP XML. This is the server side part. This is the server side part. We are the Android. Android is a consumer. This is the server. Okay. So here you need to understand how they are receiving the data in the server side, how they are giving the. That's not our duty, right? So our responsibility is what? Only this left side part. Whatever I mark in green color, that is only our responsibility. Converting your object XML to SOAP XML, putting the data into HTTP request. This is only our responsibility. This is only what? Our responsibility. And even in this one also, even this up to this one, meaning converting your object to XML to SOAP XML file, and putting that SOAP XML into HTTP request. Okay, send this HTTP data server. Even this process, even this entire process also, even this entire process also, there is a library called in Android. There is a library in Android called Caseop2 is a library. What is the library name? Caseop2 is a library. It's a third-party library. It's not a part of Android. There is a library called Caseop2 is a library. By using this Caseop2 library, we can already automatically this Caseop2 library will take care of all this process, meaning converting your object XML to SOAP XML, putting into HTTP, receive the HTTP request from HTTP SOAP XML, from SOAP XML to XML. For all these process, manually we don't need to do anything. There is a library called Caseop2 is a library. Okay, by using the Caseop2 library, will provide all these things. Okay, then what we have to do? See, one step is pending here in this entire architecture. One step is remaining. That is nothing but, see, from the server you will get the response. In which format you will get the response? In SOAP service, in a XML format you will get the response from the server. This XML we had to convert into an object format. We had to convert, right? This process is remaining. Which process? Converting the object into an XML file. This is not automation. Caseop2 library will take care of up to this one, receiving the XML. So we had to do this process. We had to do converting your XML into object. This process is there, right? This is not automation. We had to make it. We had to write that logic to read the data from the XML. Why it is not automation? Because see, Caseop2 library don't know, right, which record you want to read from the XML. See, there are 1,000 records out there. You got all the 1,000 records from the server in XML format. Maybe you have a requirement of reading only one particular record, whose ID is equals to 124 or whose ID is equals to 125. Caseop2 library don't know, right, which record you wants to read from the XML. That's why it cannot make it automation. XML into what? Object format. So we had to make that one. That is the first thing. Meaning, as a Android developer, that is our first responsibility. Okay, in this SOAP service, read the data from the XML file, whatever you received from the server. That is the first thing. Second thing is nothing but you have to know how to use this Caseop2 library for communicating with web services. What are two responsibilities? We had to understand first. We had to understand how to use the Caseop2 library for communicating with the web service. That is the first thing we have to understand. How to use Caseop2 library for communicating with web service. That is the first thing we have to understand. How to use the Caseop2 library for communicating with what? Web services. This is our first responsibility. Second thing is nothing but read the data from the XML file. Read the data from XML file. This is the second responsibility. Okay. So if you want to understand the SOAP based web service, if you want to understand, so first we have to know these two things: how to read the data from XML and how to use the Caseop2 library for communicating with web services. Okay. So first we'll discuss this part, how to read the data from the XML file. Then after that, we'll see how to use the Caseop2 library. Because first, if you discuss Caseop2 library, we'll get the response from the server, but you don't know how to read the data from the XML. It's waste. So that's why first we'll discuss this, how to read the data from XML. Then after that, we'll discuss how to use what? Caseop2 library. So even though our requirement is reading the data from XML, file, in a few places, even you will get a requirement of writing the data also into web service. Of course, not into the web service XML file. Our requirement is maximum 99% of the Android developer responsibilities reading the data from the XML, and that 1% is there, right? Maybe in few places, even you will get a requirement of writing the data also into XML file, because XML is one of the textual database. You can store some data in the XML file. You can store some data. Okay, and even if you take my current working company, if any person comes to the interview and the Android interview, first I'll ask a question. I'll give a sample XML file. I'll give like this. I'll give a sample XML file like this. I'll give a sample XML file, and I'll ask him to write the code. How you'll create this XML file programmatically, or how you'll read the XML file through program. Okay. Okay. So here, even though our requirement is reading the data, but we'll discuss both. We'll discuss because in few places you'll get a requirement of even writing the data also into XML file. Okay. For this process, writing the data into an XML or reading the data from the XML, for this process, we are having a concept called XML parsers. For this concept, for this writing the data into XML file or read the data from XML, we are having a concept called what? XML parsers. So before going to discuss the XML parsers, do you have any queries here? In this SOAP service architecture, do you have any queries? Any queries? Send me the response if you don't have. No. Okay. 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 Next, we'll discuss XML parsers. Remember this architecture. Remember this architecture. Okay. Save this one because later we'll get required. Okay. So now first we'll discuss this XML parsing concept. We'll discuss how to write the data in, if you want to write the data into an XML or if you want to read the data from XML. We are having a concept called XML parsers. Having a concept called what? XML parsers. Basically, in case of Java technology, if you are using a Java technology, there are two parsers are there. One is JAXP is one thing, Java API for XML parsing, JAXP is another thing. There are two types of parsers are there. One is JAXP. Second thing is what? JAXP. Okay, so JAXP is termed as Java API for XML parsing. Java API for what? XML parsing. And JAXP is termed as Java API for XML binding. Java API for XML parsing and Java API for XML binding. Okay. Again in JAXP, there are two methodologies are there. Again in JAXP, there are two methodologies are there. The two methodologies are nothing but one is DOM. Second thing is nothing but SAX. DOM parser and SAX parser. So DOM is termed as document object model. DOM is termed as document object model. SAX is termed as simple API for XML. DOM is termed as document object model. SAX is termed as what? Simple API for XML. So these are the two parsers in case of Java. These are the two types of methodologies in case of Java, JAXP and JAXP. But unfortunately, Android will not support this JAXP parsing, Java API for XML binding. Basically, it's simple. JAXP is simple, but Android will not support this JAXP parsing. It will not support. Only it will support only JAXP, Java API for XML parsing. These are the two methodologies, DOM and SAX. And Android is giving one more. Android is giving one more parser here, meaning it is only specific to Android, called XML full parser. What is another one? XML full parser. Okay, so these are the three parsers we are having now: a DOM parser, SAX parser, and XML full parser. DOM, SAX, and XML full parser. So by using this DOM parser, we can perform crude operations. We can perform, meaning you can create an XML, you can read the data from XML file, you can update the XML file, and you can delete the XML file. We can perform the crude operations we can perform on XML file by using this DOM parser. Create, read, update, and delete. These operations we can perform on XML by using DOM parser. Okay, but this SAX parser and XML pull parser are the read-only parsers, meaning only we can read the data from the XML file by using the SAX parser, and the XML pull parser are only what? A read-only parser. Okay, SAX parser and XML pull parser, these two are what? These two are the read-only parsers. So if you understand these three types of methodologies, DOM, SAX, and XML pull parser, we can close the XML parsing concept. We can close. Okay. So now let's start the first one, DOM parser. Meaning, how can we create the XML file using what? DOM parser. How can we create an XML file using what? Using a DOM parser. We'll see now first. Okay. So DOM is termed as what? Document object model. DOM is termed as what? A document object model. Or another name for this one is nothing but it's a tree structure. XML is nothing but what? It's a tree structure. Will arrange the data, right? Okay. My requirement is I want to create a simple application. I want to store the data in XML file, because we stored, right? There are three storage methods are there in Android. What are the three storage methods? Just recently only we discussed. There are three storage methods are there in Android. One is shared preferences. Second thing is SQLite database. Third thing is what? Files. Even the files also, first thing is what? XML file. Let's see how to maintain the data in a XML file. It's not only for data transmission in web services. It's not only to transfer a data in the web service. Even if you want to store some data, also we can use XML as a database we can use. Okay. Now we'll see by using DOM parser how can we create the data in a XML file. Okay. I want to create a simple application. I want to create a simple application which is used to store the employees data. I want to create a simple application which is used to store what? The employees data in a XML file in the same format. Like in this format, I want to write the data into an XML file. Employees is the main root element. You have to understand few terminologies. You have to understand here. But this is one sample XML file. Employees is a main root tag. Employee, okay, ID, name. Okay, this is an XML file. This is one XML file. Now my requirement is I want to write the data into an XML file. I want to write the data in this format. I want to write the data into an XML file. I want to write the data, ID, name, designation, and department. Okay. So you have to understand few terminologies. You have to understand here before going to start the XML parsing. So basically, this is a root element. In a single XML file, how many root elements you can create? Only one element only we can create. One root element we can create in a single XML. Okay, but technically it is termed as a user terminology. As a user terminology, we call as each and every meaning this employees is a tag, employee is a tag, ID is a tag, name is a tag, designation is a tag. So in a user terminology, we call as tag. In a user terminology, we call as what? A tag. In case of XML terminology, we call it as an element. Just I'm introducing the terminologies. Okay. In case of user terminology, we call as a tag. In case of XML terminology, we called as an element. In case of Java terminology, we called as a node. In case of Java terminology, we call as what? It's a node. If it is a single tag, then we call as a node. If in case of multiple tags, we call as a node list. Because we are going to use these terminologies frequently, like element or node and node list and all. So you have to understand the terminology. You have to understand. If it is a single element or single tag, we call as a node. If you are having multiple tags, that is called as a node list. Okay, if a tag contains any value, if tag contains any value, for example, let's take 123 here. So it's called as a text node. It's called as what? It's a text node. Programmatically the tag is termed as node. If tag contains any value, then we call as what? It's a text node. If tag contains any value, we termed as a text node. Okay, now now my requirement is I want to create this XML file. I want to create programmatically, I want to create this XML file. This is the requirement. Okay, now let's see. Let's create a project. We'll create a new project. We'll create, let's file, new, let's create a new project. Specify the project name. Let's take my project name is DOM test is a project name, or XML test. Okay, I'm creating a project called what? XML test is a project name. XML test. Okay, next. Take an empty activity. Here we'll create 4 text boxes. We'll create here. Here we'll create 4 text boxes. One is for the ID, and one more thing for the name, ID, name, designation, and department. We'll create 4 text boxes. We'll create here. ID, name, designation, and department. ID, name, designation, and department. We'll configure the hint. We'll configure for all these text boxes. We'll configure the hint attribute. We'll configure for all these text boxes. Android colon hint is equals to, first one I want to take the employee ID. I want to take. I want to take the name, designation, and department. So we created 4 text boxes. We created 4 text boxes, and below these 4 text boxes we'll create 4 buttons. We'll create one is insert, insert, read, update, and delete. We created 4 buttons. We created. Okay, so let's configure the click event for these 4 buttons. Or first we'll configure the click event only for insert, because first we are performing the insertion operation. We are performing, okay, insert. So whenever user clicks the insert button, it is going to call a method in Java file called insert is a method. Let's create the insert method. Public void insert is a method, and the input parameter for this one is a view object is the input parameter for this. Okay, so now whenever user clicks the insert button, I want to write the data into an XML file. I want to write the data. Of course, there are 3 methodologies are there: DOM, SAX, and XML pull parser. If you want to write the data into an XML, that is only possible with DOM parser. SAX parser and XML pull parser or the read-only parsers. Okay. Okay. And before going to write that insert logic, first get the data from all the four text boxes. Initialize these four text boxes. Edit text 2, edit text 3, and edit text 4. Let's initialize these four text boxes. art.id.edit text. Okay. So whenever user select the insert button, I want to write the data into an XML file. So if you want to write the data into an XML file, first we had to use DOM parser. If you want to get the object for DOM parser, so first we had to create the object for document builder factory. We had to create an object. If you want to write the data into an XML, we had to use DOM parser. So first create the object for document builder factory is a class. So we had to get the object for this document builder factory class. We had to create the object. Document builder factory dot new instance is a method. Document builder factory dot new instance is a method to get the object of what? To get the object for document builder factory. To get the object for what? Document builder factory. And next we had to get the object for document builder class. We had to create an object. We had to create the object for document builder class. The document builder factory dot, there is a method called new document builder is a method. Document builder factory object dot new document builder is a method to get the object for document builder class. Basically our requirement is we had to write the data into an XML file. We had to write the data, meaning that XML file we had to create. So we call as a XML file, or we call as a document. Technical term is a document. So we had to create we want to create a document. See, this document is also available in multiple packages, but we require this org.w3c.dom package class we required. So let's create the object for document class. Document d is equals to builder dot new document is a method. Document d is equals to what? Builder dot new document is a method. By using this statement, we will get the document object. We'll get by using this statement. Okay, but this logic will give an exception. Put the logic inside. Put the whole logic inside the try catch. The whole logic inside what? Try catch. Okay, so now we created a document object. Basically we require the object for document. See, some other classes you can create object directly. You can create document d is equals to new document. Directly you can create a document object you can create. But here, if you want to get the document object, it's having some dependency. We require the object for document builder. But if you want to get the document builder object, first you have to get the object for document builder factory class object we require. So it's having some dependencies. So that's why we created these three class objects we created. Okay, now we created document object we created. Now what we had to do is, this XML file is not available. This XML file is not available. We want to store the data in this format. But this XML file is not available. This XML file is what? It's not available. Okay, so programmatically we had to create all these elements, meaning all these tags we had to create programmatically. How many tags are available? You see here, total 6 tags are available. Employees is a root tag. Next after that, employee, ID, name, designation, and department. Total, how many tags are there? 6 tags. So we had to create all these elements. Programmatically we had to create all these elements. Let's take element is equals to document object dot. There is a method called create element is a method. Specify the tag name. Tag name is nothing but employees is a tag name. Like this we had to create what? Elements we had to create. Employees is one element. Next we had to create one more element called employee. name, employees is the element, employee, next ID, name, designation, and department. Okay, total we had to create 6 element classes we had to create. Total we had to create 6 elements. E5 and E6. We created how many elements? 6 elements. 6 elements we created, meaning we created 6 tags. We created 6 tags. We created employees, employee, ID, name, designation, and department. Total we created how many tags? 6 tags we created now. Okay, first part is completed. We created the tags we created. First we created the XML tags we created. These 4 tags: employees, employee, ID, name, designation, and department. We created these tags we created. But this tag contains the data, right? ID tag contains the data called 123 Mahesh. Okay, this designation and mobility. From where we'll get this data? We will get this data from the user. We created 4 text boxes, right? Here we created 4 text boxes. We created here. User is going to enter the data in these text boxes. Okay. So basically, we created elements. We created. Now we had to create the nodes. We had to create. How many nodes? I mean, text nodes we had to create. How many text nodes we had to create? 4 text nodes we had to create. Node n1 is equals to document object dot, there is a method called create text node is a method. Create text node is a method. From where we'll get the value for this text node? We'll get the value from edit text component. We'll get the value et1 dot get text dot toString. Okay, like this we had to create 4 nodes. We had to create how many nodes? 4 nodes we had to create. Okay, so we had to create 4 nodes. First we created 6 elements. We created 6 tags. We created. Next we created what? Four nodes. Okay, so we created 4 text nodes. We created. Okay, from where we are getting the value for these text nodes? From the user we are getting the values. Okay, next we created elements. We created, I mean tags we created, as well as we created the text nodes also. We created what is the values you want to insert inside this tag. Now we had to arrange all these things in a proper order. We had to arrange. Now we had to arrange all these things in a proper order, meaning this 123 is child for what? 123 is a child of ID. This Mahesh is a child of what? Name. This tech lead is a child of designation. Mobility is a child of department. Now we had to arrange all these values. We had to arrange in a proper order. These text nodes are childs of these elements, and these 4 elements: ID, name, designation, department, these 4 are child of employee. These 4 are what? Child of what? Employee. And employee is a child of what? Employees. So we had to arrange all these things in a proper order. We had to arrange now. All these things we had to arrange in a proper order. We had to arrange. Meaning this node 1 is a child for what? ID. So let's write here e3 dot append child of n1, node 1. Next e4 dot append child of n2. Meaning these elements. Node 1 is a child for ID, node 2 is a child for name. Okay. E5 dot append child of n3, and e6 dot append child of n4. Okay, so now we specified these 4 nodes, this ID, name, designation, department. These 4 nodes are Childs of these elements: id, name, designation, and department. Next, these four elements are child of what? Employee, right? This id, name, designation, department, these four are child of what? Employee. So here, meaning these nodes e3, e4, e5, e6, these are the childs of e2. E2 dot append child of e3, right, and e6. Okay, these four are child of what? These four are child of employee, meaning we specified up to this. Now even this employee is a child of what? Employee is a child of employees, right? Okay. So here e1 dot append child of e1 dot append child of e2. Okay. Next, finally this employees is a child for document. Finally this employees is a child for what? Document. Finally this employees is a child for what? The document object. So right here, a d dot append child of e1. A d dot append child of what? E1. Okay. Now we arranged all the XML tags. We arranged in a proper order. We arranged all these tags. All these tags we arranged in a proper order. We arranged all these tags. Now the entire data. Now the entire data we stored into. Now the entire data we stored into the document object. We stored the entire data. We stored the entire data into which object? Into the document object. We stored the entire data. Okay. This document data, whatever the data is, now the entire data is available in a document object format. The data is available. Now whatever the data is there in this object, in which format you want to write the XML file, we define already the tags, we define the nodes, we define, and we already arranged in a order. We arrange all these things. Now this object data, whatever the data is there in the document object, that object data we had to write into one file. We had to write that object data. We had to write into what? One file. We had to write. For writing your object data into a file, there is a class called transformer is a class. What's the class name? For converting the object data into an XML file, there is a class called transformer is a class. But if you want to get this transformer object, if you want to get the transformer object, first we have to create the object for transformer factory class. We have to create an object. If you want to get this transformer object, first we have to create an object for what? Transformer factory class. We have to create an object. Transformer factory is equals to transformer factory dot new instance is a method. Transformer factory dot, what is the method name? New instance is a method to get the object for transformer factory. To get the object for what? Transformer factory. Next, we require the object for transformer class. We require the object. If you want to get the transformer object, by using this transformer factory class, there is a method called new transformer is a method. What is the method name? New transformer is a method. Return type of this method is nothing but transformer. So we had to use this method. We had to use to get the object for transformer class. We had to use this method to get the object of what? Transformer. Now this transformer class contains a method called transform is a method. What is the method name? Transformer object dot transform is a method. For this transform method, basically we had to specify two parameters. We had to specify. First thing is a source, second thing is the output. Meaning we had to specify where the data is available and to where you want to write the data. Transformer object dot transform is a method. You have to specify the source object. You have to specify first where the data is available, the source, and to where you want to write the data. Where the data is available and to where you want to write the data. These two parameters you have to specify now. What is the first parameter? For this transform method, we had to pass two parameters. We had to pass, one is a source object, second thing is what? A result object. If you see here, transform is a method which is taking two parameters as input, source and result. If you want to find the description, you can find here. Transform the XML source to a result. So we had to pass two parameters. We had to pass for this, where the data is available and to where you want to write the data. Where the data is available, the data is available in a document object. The data is available, right? The document format, document object, the data is available. Now this data we had to write into one file. We had to write the data. So source we are having anyway, but we don't have a destination result where you want to write the data. So we had to create that XML file. We had to create. If you want to create any class, if you want to create in Java, there is a class called file output stream is a class. By using this file output stream class, we can create a file. We can create. Let's create the object for file output stream is equals to new file output stream. Specify the path where you want to create the XML file. I want to create the XML file in the device storage in my phone internal storage. I'm representing SD card 0 for phone internal storage. What is XML file name you want to create? I want to create an XML file name as emp6am.xml. In my phone internal storage, I am creating a file with the name emp6am.xml is a file name. This is a result. To where you want to write the data, we created a file we are creating. Programmatically, we are creating a file we are creating by using this file output stream class. Okay. Okay, we specified what is the source object. I mean, where the data is available. Where the data is available, we got the source we are having, that is in the document object, and now we are having the result also to where you want to write the data. So that's it. If you pass these two parameters to transform method, where the data is available and to where you want to write the data, that's it. It's going to write that XML data. That object data is going to write into an XML file. But directly cannot pass this document object and file output stream. It is taking parameters, input parameters. First thing is the object for source class. There is a class called DOM source as a child of source class. DOM source is equals to new DOM source of specify where the data is available. Where the data is available in a document object, the data is available. Second thing is we had to specify stream result. Second parameter had to specify what? A stream result. I mean, you had to specify where you want to write the data. Where you want to write the data. Stream result is equals to new stream result of specify the file output stream object where you want to write the data. Okay. So basically we created a file output stream object and document object, but the input parameter for this method is nothing but source comma result. That's why we converted the document object as a source and we converted that file output stream object as a result by using these DOM source and stream result classes. Now specify these two parameters for this transform method. First is a source, comma. Second parameter is nothing but what? Result. Source, comma, result. By using this transform method, we are converting that document object data we are converting into one file we are converting. Result. Okay. Now we are writing the data into an XML file. We are writing the data in our phone storage. We are writing the data into one XML file. We are writing the data. So let's add a permission in the manifest.xml. Let's add a permission in the manifest.xml. That is nothing but user's permission Android colon name is equals to write external storage. Write external storage. So because we are writing the data into storage, we are writing the data, right? So we had to add that permission. We had to add write external storage. Now let's run the app. I want to install the app in Samsung device because we cannot install in emulator. We cannot install because emulator doesn't contain any storage. Okay. Let's install the app in device, Samsung device. Give me a cable. No, no, not that is not good. So 1 second, I'm connecting my phone. I'm connecting. Let's run the app. Samsung device I'm installing. Okay. So app is installed. We'll insert some data. We'll insert. App is installed now. We'll insert the data. We'll insert. First specify employee ID. What is the name? What is the what is the designation, and what is the department? Okay. So once if you click the insert button, we are writing the data into what? An XML file. We are writing the data. Let's select the insert button. I selected insert. I selected. So it will write the data into what? An XML file. It will write the data. So I selected insert button. I selected. It will write the data into what? An XML file. It will write the data. Just go and check whether the file is created or not in the XML. Just go to storage. Yes, file explorer. Let's select this SD card 0. The phone internal storage. What is the file name we specified? The file name we specified as emp6am.xml is a file name I specified. emp6am.xml. So if you see here, this is a XML file. This is the XML file is created, emp6am.xml. Let's open the XML file. Let's open the XML file. So this is what the XML file we created programmatically. Employees is the main root tag. Employee is a tag. It contains a tag called ID, name, designation, and department. Okay. So programmatically, we created this XML file. We created programmatically. We created this one. Programmatically, we created this XML file. We created programmatically. Okay. This is how to write the data into an XML file by using what? DAM parser. By using DAM parser, we've seen how to write the data into an XML file. Okay. So any queries? Any queries in the today's class regarding the web service architecture and by using DAM parser, how to write the data into an XML file? Okay. So if you don't have any queries, then we'll see the next remaining operations. We'll see the tomorrow class. Because first you have to practice this.
Sir.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, Rakesh.
Sir, is there any other place to store the XML file, like any other storage methods? Like you're storing it into your SD card, right?
Yes.
Actually, I don't have SD card, so can I store it to my computer itself, like to my laptop itself? So how that it's possible?
If you want to store in your laptop, at server side you have to write the logic. Actually, what you had to do is from your mobile application, we had to send these data. We had to
Yeah.
send these data. We had to send as a query parameters. That is what the ultimately web service concept, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You can send the data to your computer. You can send the data, and there in the computer, they have to receive that XML. They have to receive that parameters. They have to receive, and they have to write that logic to store the data into an XML file. Anyway, we'll discuss that one when you're discussing the GCM concept, Google Cloud Messaging concept. At that time, I will tell you how to send the data to your computer. Okay.
Okay.
No, without SD card means not only SD card. Even by default, your phone storage will get right, like 1 GB or some storage will get right by default.
Yes.
So we'll see that one also, how to store the data in computer. Any other queries?
Yeah, that's it, sir.
So let's work on after this. So work on this XML, because a lot of interview questions you'll get based on this XML parsing, JSON, web services. 90% of the questions you'll get from these concepts only you'll get, especially web services concept and all. Okay. Let's work on up to this, and tomorrow we'll discuss the remaining three operations. We'll discuss how to perform the reading, updation, and deletion operations using DAM parser, SAX parser, and XML pull parser. Okay. So thank you guys. See you tomorrow.